Hey, what's up, guys? This is Snowboarder Mike coming at you with some earnings for LRCX. They are reporting tomorrow after the bell. We are going to look at some historical analysis, last few quarters, and some industry correlations, what some of the other semis have done in the past week or so with their earnings, and how we can use all this information to trade LRCX. So let's just get after it. LRCX, here's their chart. What you can really see is this is a stock that tends to really move in longer waves. So, as of late, we had a nice big up wave, and we sort of have this little cup that's formed. And so the question now is, are we at a top, pushing higher still, or are we maybe going to be consolidating from here? So let's take a look at some historical quarters and try to figure out exactly what it is that we're looking at. LRCX in the recent quarters, they always beat. These guys crush, right? Like, look at this. 91% of the time in the last 3 years, they've beaten their earnings estimates. The only time that they missed was right after the COVID drop. So it's not a big surprise there. Another thing that they almost always do is gap up in the pre-market. So 75% of the time, we see that they do have a gap up. And then I've included the pre-market volume. I think this is really important for you guys. It's going to tell us kind of how much to trust the move that is being made in the pre-market. So the average volume for these guys is 75,000 shares. But look here in 2020, we're really trending more around the, maybe 20 to 65,000 shares. So maybe a little bit under 75 would be considered average. Here we're looking at the gaps and what they call the drift. So, like I was saying, the stock does tend to trend. So the wider bar here is the gap up, and so you can see that this line here is 5%. We could expect gaps, in this 3 to 5% up range, maybe a little bit more. And what's interesting is whatever the gap is, the stock will tend to drift in that direction. Now, that's not the day of or things like that, but that's more the quarter. But it just gives you an idea that seeing what the stock is going to do, over the last couple of years, whatever the gap is and whatever it's doing after they announce the earnings is what it's going to tend to do. So that really helps us with continuation play ideas going forward. So this is a chart, just a short-term chart as of Monday. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning, and you can see we kind of went up and we started going topped out and we're going sideways. As we know, yesterday the market did make a very big move down, and LRCX really was able to hold its ground and not really lose this level. And that's something that we're going to see in a few of the semiconductors that we're going to look at as analogs. So just keep that in mind. So the first quarter that I want to look at that I thought looked pretty similar was July of 2019. You can see we kind of did that and bump like we did there, and we moved sideways. Now, like I said, we have a couple days yet until we're actually going to be playing this play. So, we're just anticipating, a possible move sideways here in the next couple of days. So what I want to do now is look at that exact same chart, but we're going to look at it from the perspective with some intraday pre-market volume. So July 2019, like we talked about, they did beat around earnings per share and revenue. These kind of squiggly lines, this is the daily moving averages. So this is your 20-day moving average and your 50-day moving average. Here's the earnings. And what's cool about this chart is the yellow here represents the first hour of the day. So you really can get a feel for what the stock's going to do early in the day. It just highlights it. So as you can see here, again, we kind of came in a little bit sideways. And in this first hour, man, we just popped way up. And what I wanted to point out about this pop is this volume. I thought this was wrong. I had to double check it like twice. There was 1,000 shares traded. So when that happened, we gapped down just a little bit on a beat. And so the stock then went up strongly, right? And then eventually they decided that they wanted to sell it off. And as we've been talking about, we have a continuation here. We were stopped by the 20 and then stopped by the 50. Those are interesting things to take note of when you're trading. This would be considered a move 11. If you don't know what a move 11 is, you need to schedule a call with one of our coaches. But moving on, let's look at another possibility for what can happen here. This is November of 2019, so a little bit later. Again, beat on revenue, beat on EPS. But look at what we have here. We have a much higher share volume, right? So as I was talking about earlier, that can be an indication to you as to, the conviction of the move pre-market. So here we see we were just kind of like mired going sideways again, but this time in the 20, we gap up above it. And now with that higher volume and a good earnings beat, look at this. We have 3 days of straight continuation, move ones, move sevens. This would have been a very easy trade for somebody familiar with the moves to make. And moving right along, I wanted to highlight the miss, right? Because that happens very rarely. This is in July of this year. This was just recently. They missed on both the revenue and on their earnings per share. Kind of choppy here in the pre-market, sort of middling volume. Look at this first 15-minute candle. There is a giant fake out right there, right? That trapped a lot of traders. But what's interesting is we continued then to move higher after that. We did find support and move higher. We get this little smiley face move here. And then we just sort of move sideways again. So, maybe they had to digest that move, but this probably wasn't, the greatest quarter to trade. It looks like it would have been a little bit more difficult, but again, understanding some of the moves, you probably would have been able to take advantage of this gap up here and still be able to make some money with this trade. So beyond the quarterly earnings, we know that they beat a lot, things like that. But what is Lam Research? This I think is important because a semiconductor is not just a semiconductor. So what they do is they provide the capital, the machines and whatnot to processes to make chips. So AMD would be their customer, Micron, Taiwan Semi, things like that. And then they have competitors within the semiconductor space, like AMAT, KLAC, and TER, which is Teradyne. And the reason that this is going to be important is because Taiwan Semi reported last week, and Teradyne actually reports this afternoon. So we can try to see if we can use these stocks the way that they moved on their earnings, and then use that information to help us with this LRCX trade. So the first one I want to look at is ASML. Is similar to LRCX, and it's going to be indicative of this pattern that I want to show you guys. So in the time coming up into earnings, we had a big move, right? 10% here. They did beat their earnings, and yet they had this little gap down of less than 1%. But here's what we start to see. In the first hour, we're going up, and then we come down again, getting caught in a moving average like we were talking about earlier, and then this bigger move down and being held up just above a moving average. So there's a nice continuation play. You can notice that the RSI went from overbought to oversold, kind of showing you the start and end of that trade. So that's a nice setup to study. And then Taiwan Semi, like we talked about, here we go again, even bigger move, 12%. They had a miss, right? And this would be one of LRCX's customers. So on this miss, you can see that the move down was actually greater than it was for the other company when they reported up good earnings. But yet, look what we have here. We have the same up and then down movement, right? But they don't go down as far. So just that's something interesting to keep in mind. So let's see how LRCX performed over this same period of time. We had the largest move up coming into earnings, right? We have nearly a 16% move. Now, ASML would have reported here on this area here with this gap down. So we gap down, go up a little bit, but not quite the same. And then when Taiwan Semi reported, we also, had this big gap down. But then instead of having a move that ultimately continued in a big move lower, traders decided that that was a good time to, at least for the day, buy that dip, right? And you can see here we went from overbought, but we did not, hit oversold. We kind of just went sideways a little bit. So those sympathy plays are really important to keep in mind. They're going to help us see, how the entire sector is reacting to the different earnings. We can see that we had a beat and a miss, and we had fairly similar reactions. So now let's move forward in time, and we're going to look at Teradyne, which is reporting, like I said, this evening. And they are very similar to LRCX in terms of their chart. I'm going to flip back and forth real quick, and I want you guys just to look at how much the same they are. I mean, it's almost the same company. So again, big move up. We have the gap down again. They kind of have the same upward move and sideways. So very, very similar. And again, same thing with the RSI. We don't get to an oversold condition. So I am going to be looking very closely tonight at how not only whether they beat or they miss, but also how the reaction is in the pre-market tomorrow, and then going into action during the day tomorrow on Wednesday. Because if LRCX is acting the same, then we can kind of infer that we might have some similar action on their earnings announcement, right? So just to put this on a calendar for us, here's Teradyne. We've got Texas Instruments also reporting this afternoon, and then tomorrow, like I said, we have our stock Lam Research. Xilinx is also reporting that they had some M&A news last week, and they're kind of moving a little bit more flat because they might get acquired. But that definitely could be a good trade. And then what I want you guys to think about too is, we're talking about the semiconductor spaces. Thursday we've got Intel reporting. Now they're a chip maker, right? So that would be the kind of person that is more of a customer of Lam Research. And the chip makers are going to have some really big earnings coming up between now and the beginning of November, including AMD, including NVIDIA, and things like that. So figuring out and learning these methods to trade these similar companies is really going to help you guys going forward. This is not just this LRCX trade. We can use this and extrapolate into more things. So let's just go over our plan really fast. We're going to be watching Teradyne and Texas Instruments this afternoon. We're going to remember what happened last week. Despite a miss or a beat, we had a gap down and then a pop and drop with some continuation. And we remember that LRCX is going to beat earnings historically 91% of the time, like we talked about. We're going to look at the pre-market volume for LRCX. They're going to report in the afternoon, so let's watch it the following morning. 75,000 is our average, and really in the 20 to 60 recently, but as high as 300K shares can be expected. We didn't talk too much about this, but their average gap, or total move rather, is 5.4%. That's going to translate at their current price to about a 20-point move. That's what we can be expecting. And the gap, obviously a little smaller, is going to be somewhere around 11 points, right? And we were looking at moving averages. We are currently above the 20 and the 50-day by about 20 points, and that corresponds here. So if it ends up being a down move, we could expect that LRCX is going to catch some support in that area. And then as far as the plan for options, we're going to wait until Thursday morning to buy weekly options. We've been seeing stocks beat earnings gap down, such as like ISRG, or we've been seeing stocks that beat earnings gap up, like BLK. So we don't know exactly how institutions are going to respond. So let's wait until the morning. And since it's a Thursday, we may want to even consider options for next week expiring on the 30th of October and take advantage of a longer continuation move. And we'll have to determine that as we see, like I said, what happens with Teradyne and things tomorrow and how the market is behaving. It's been a little bit unruly as of the last week or so. But looking historically, the largest move is likely going to be in the first hour. We remember seeing those yellow 15-minute candles being by far the largest of the day. So if we're going to follow the pattern that we've seen already, we're probably going to have a small gap down on lower volume with a first hour bounce and then possibly a sell-off. So that's our most likely scenario. That's our base case. We also looked at an example of a gap and go. So if they blow out their numbers and we have a high volume pre-market with that real steady pattern of upward movement, then we might want to consider going with some calls right out of the gate and taking advantage of that gap and go. Now, another thing, like I had mentioned with ISRG and BLK, it's always good to look at other big stocks and see where they are in their chart patterns and how they've reacted recently to earnings. So you got to have a couple of different scenarios of exactly what you plan to do in order to be successful in this. You can't just say, this is my plan and I don't care what the chart says, I'm going this way, right? So guys, just to wrap it all up, if you guys want to wake up with a plan and not just a scanner and kind of be scrambling through a watch list and trying to figure out what to do, you want to be able to recognize patterns, divergences, crush the earnings season. This is Snowboarder Mike. You guys have seen me before. 2,600 to 7,000. This was $50 to $3,200. I mean, that is just out of control. You know, I've lived this. I've seen how these moves work. You guys can do it too. It's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of coaching. Call or go to the website today, schedule your 20-minute call, trade like a rock star. Let's rock.
Do you know what is actually the best day of the week to day trade and why? I'm about to show you something that most of day traders don't even dream about, and what all the trading gurus, coaches, and experts think is absolutely impossible. Now, the reason why they think that is because they all learned the same courses on trading, like basic stuff like trade the trend, guys. That's not gonna make you any money. So if you're tired of your account going nowhere, if you're tired of losing money, pay attention. Now, I'm super busy trading, so I'm actually gonna have Monica walk you through details. Now, all the experts will tell you, don't trade on Fridays. Why? Because they've been taught and conditioned to think that. Because they don't know the secrets that I know. I'm about to reveal to you that exactly the opposite is true. The only day you want to day trade is on Friday. Check out some of my recent Friday trades. 1,000 to 4,300, 2,000 to 26,000, 2,000 to 53,000 day trading, 4,000 to 63,000 day traded, 4,000 to $144,000 in under 8 hours day traded. The reason why they don't think this is possible is because they don't know what I know and what my students know. Now check out my students. 195,000 in day trading profits recently. 356,000 in trading profits recently. If you've been going to countless webinars trying to learn how to trade, if you've been taking courses where everybody's teaching you the same stuff over and over again, no wonder why your account is stuck. No wonder why you're trading this stock, guys. If you're tired of sales pitches, countless webinars, and all the same stuff that everybody's trying to teach you when it comes to day trading and swing trading, let me show you how real trading is done. Watch me trade live right now, 4K to 63K in under 9 hours. All trades are triple verified by independent agencies. Stop wasting time doing the same thing over and over again. Stop the excuses. This is real. This is possible. Let me show you how you can learn the formula that can allow you to trade like this. If you're ready to take your trading game to the next level, let's roll. Click the link somewhere around this video. Click the button somewhere around this video and watch now or forever regret not knowing the secrets that could have finally taken your trading game to the ultimate victory in a Super Bowl of trading. Let's roll. Ready to take your trading skills to the next level, guys? Let's do this. I'm gonna have Monica take it over from here. On the next page, make sure, don't be shy, say hi to Monica. She is ready to reveal the secrets of trading like a rock star. Just click the watch now button. Be nice to her. Don't be flirting now. Click the watch now button and let the show begin.